Show me your heart. I know that it's beating. Tell me that you love me too. So I know your heart is true. 'Cause I need some proof of love. 'Cause I need some proof of love. 'Cause I need some proof of love. I want to talk about Celsius Network. They're doing a really cool thing, trying to revolutionize the way we think about financial services. Basically, they're offering their users up to 10% annual interest on their crypto deposit, and there's no secret to how they're doing it. That 10% comes from them sharing 80% of their profits, rather than the minuscule percentage the banks share. Celsius is giving our users $10 in BTC when they make a deposit of $200 or more in crypto or stablecoins when they use promo code LOVE. Go to Celsius.network. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Proof of Love. I'm joined today by both my co-hostesses with the mostesses and with Leah Jonas, who is the head of global partnerships at Celsius Network and also a good friend of mine. Celsius has been kind enough to sponsor us. And we have so many things to talk about today because we're going to be talking about dating on the road. And first of all, I'd just like to give the ladies a chance to say hello. So Lauren, how are you doing today?
I am doing great. How is everybody?
Good. Awesome.
Great. Steph, anything to say? Anything to report? We haven't had you on the show for a little while.
Yes, I feel awesome. I'm going to share my big news next time we're on like a catch up with all three of us, but I have some big news. So stay tuned.
I like the tease. That's my kind of
But I am doing great. I feel fantastic.
Awesome. And Leah, where are you broadcasting to us from? Where in the world is Leah?
I should make a tracker. I am broadcasting from London. I'm currently in, I wish I remember the name of the area. There's so many different neighborhoods here, but I'm near the London Eye, so I can kind of see Westminster Bridge from where I'm at. And I'm working out of the WeWork here that just had started a WeWork labs for blockchain and crypto. So I'm a mentor, and I'm getting to meet all these new people within the ecosystem, which is really awesome.
That's amazing. So For people who are not familiar with your history, tell me a little bit about where you came from and what got you interested in crypto and what you've been working on since. What was your journey down the rabbit hole?
Yeah, I love that phrase. So basically, I started out in early stage tech startups in business development and sales. But early in my career, I was doing some moonlighting for a VC, and I encountered a lot of emerging tech, AR, VR, all the deals they were analyzing. And when I came across crypto, it really piqued my interest because it was the only thing that I had come across that they were investing in that really impacted the developing world more than it impacted the first world, right? Like it was more beneficial to everyone else, the billions and billions of people that existed, as opposed to, everybody here in London or New York that have bank accounts. And that was fascinating to me because I think that was a group of people, and those are people in these societies that aren't addressed often. And that kind of sparked my interest. When I really went down the rabbit hole was when I moved to New York. And as part of that, I started to kind of go to these meetups and meet people like you. And especially in New York, there's a thriving ecosystem. And I encountered just the most passionate people that I didn't even know that level of passion and commitment was possible. And I've been working with people who were founders and entrepreneurs that I thought, oh, you're crazy for, staying up all night and, developing this project. I was meeting people who were staying up all night, didn't even have a project, were working 2 jobs and were just, believed in this future of, decentralization and equal opportunity. And that's what pushed me down the rabbit hole, whether I liked it or not. And once you pull back that curtain, there's really no going back, right? It's like red pill, blue pill kind of scenario. So at one of these meetups, I met our founder, Alex. I was very impressed with not only his background, but I didn't find out his background of, having set up in startups and all these exits till later. I was more impressed with the fact that, he was an established entrepreneur that was going to boots on the ground meetups, right? He wasn't entering it and being like, oh, I'm only going to converse and talk to the people who have track records in history. He was like, no, I need to meet the people who really believe in this and are doing this because they love it, not because they see the money in it. And it's kind of history from there. So I joined Celsius as like employee number 10, I think, and have worked in probably every single role you could imagine there. At one point or another, just wearing a bunch of different hats as the story goes. And ended up settling in the business development department, which is probably no surprise to anybody that knows me, because I love connecting with people. I love finding overlapping interests and creating genuine partnerships and relationships. And now I am what is called, I think, a digital nomad. It's a basically homelessness for the millennial generation. But I go around to our different offices. I spent 4 months in Tel Aviv recently, kind of building out a couple people on our team there. I've now come to London to build out our team here and really work on our B2B partnerships, and develop a little bit more strategy in reaching the EU market. And we'll do that with a few other markets subsequently. But yeah, I'm loving every moment of it. I wouldn't be able to work as much as I do if I didn't. And it's been extremely exciting. I now understand so many entrepreneurs at a deeper level now, because watching a product go from literally a whiteboard to having, I think we're at around 50,000 users, 400 million under management. It's indescribable. It's like, it's watching something come to fruition that you had no idea what it would look like at the end. You just knew you were all marching in the same direction. So yeah, it's been really, really awesome.
So that's the business side, but there's this proof of love, right? So what about the personal side? Dating on the road. We want to get into the meat and potatoes. I think we've done the setting, we set the mood. But I also have traveled a lot, and it can be very challenging, but I'd love to hear your perspective. I know the ladies have some great questions.
Yeah, I think it's been evolving for sure. When I first got into crypto and when I first started with Celsius, blockchain was my love. Celsius was my love. So I devoted so much time to it. I was running at 1,000,000 miles an hour. I was enthralled. And I didn't date at all, really. I didn't have a personal life for the first year. And that sounds sad, but I mean, I had that passion, and that was so fulfilling to me. But in growing and being with the company, I realized it really doesn't stop, right? When you have that passion, it's not going to change ever. You're never going to have more time. So you kind of got to make the time. And so in the last maybe, I guess, 6 months, 8 months, I've honed in on trying to strike that balance and developing more of a personal life and a dating life. And it's been difficult for sure. It's approaching it from a modern view. I travel a lot. I don't know exactly where I'm going, but I know that my career takes center stage, and explaining that to people, or explaining that to guys in particular, they're like, oh, sure, you want something casual, you want something, fulfilling, you want to, something low drama. It sounds like every other girl out there, right? Like, I want low drama. I want something that's fun and easy and blah, blah. And I really mean that. So getting guys taking me seriously on that is sometimes difficult.
Well, that's interesting, Leah. I want to just interrupt you for a second, because you said like every other girl out there is saying, I want something casual and no drama. And but then you said that you have a hard time getting guys to believe that. Do you think that people say that they want something casual, but they don't really mean it?
Yeah. And I think that this is something that is an interesting dance that girls and guys play, right? Girls play, I'm unavailable. Guys play, I'm chasing you. And I think that's just a societal norm or expectation, maybe just in Western cultures, but I've really found that, globally. And so saying that, I think guys expect you to say that, like I'm unavailable, or, I'm unattainable because I'm traveling and, I want something casual. But when you really stick to it, because they pursue you more, it takes them back, because you're like, no, nothing's changed. Like my career still comes first. I'm not going to drop everything to stay in a city with you. I'm not going to, not go on to my next destination because I want to date you. Like it's, the moment they realize that is like a very specific moment that I've encountered where you're like, no, I meant that, that's something it's not a game for me. It's not like, me putting that out there so that you try harder. It's really how I live my life. And I think it's really interesting. Just to touch on one other thing, it's in a cultural aspect. The cultural aspect of getting to authenticity is something I've realized. I don't have time for like, I'm going to dance around who I am or who you are or small talk, because I don't have a lot of time. So if I want to spend time with you, or if I'm going to take time out of my day where I have a million other things to do, I want it to be an authentic relationship. And I think that in different cultures, I found that sometimes it's off-putting because they find it so direct. But in the end, it's also something that's really refreshing for a lot of people to be authentic, and something that a lot of people seek in relationships. So it turns off some guys just because I'm myself no matter what, because if I wasn't, then I'd be wasting time. But it kind of causes a different type of relationship, maybe deeper relationship faster, which is good and bad, because then also you're like, this is maybe a deeper relationship than you've had. You're going to mistake it for love, and then I'm going to peace out.
Yeah. So how do you end off the relationships when you're going on to your next destination? Does it feel like they're still open, or like maybe next time you come back there, you could rekindle it, or do you just break up with them and it's done?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I don't quite have an answer for that yet. So I know that for certain relationships, you can kind of tell, right? Like for certain relationships, you're like, this is fun, casual. I like who you are as a person, but, and maybe next time I come, we'll keep in touch. I can, quote a specific relationship that I had in Israel, in which he travels a lot as well. So he was actually here in London this past week, and we met up. And then, he's coming back to London again in December and January. So I'll see him then. And that's new territory for me. Like, what is that? Right? Like, are we dating? Is this progressing? Are we keeping it in a holding pattern of just when we're together? Like, what's the end outcome? I don't really know. I think that in the past, it's kind of been like, if we're in the same area, we can hang out, and that's great. But while I'm not there, we're not going to have like an ongoing, like back and forth text. I'm also a horrible texter. So, like I'm a horrible like communicator via digital anyways, family and friends included. If it's not in my direct zone of like importance, then
Well, wait.
I'm not. Yeah.
So does that mean that, do you know about attachment theory? Would you say that you are equally detached with other relationships as well? I mean, would you say that that's a trend?
I think so. I think that it is a little bit. I am very close to my family, and I have a lot of really good friends. I think that it's as unfair as it seems, like sometimes on my terms. Like if I need my friends and family, like I will definitely pull on those resources. But I've established a really good network of support in which they understand if I have a crazy week and I'm working like 14-hour days, it might take me like a day to respond. And they're just very understanding of that. And that's just like they don't think it's like me detaching or pushing them away. They just understand that I'm really busy. But if they are guys, sometimes they don't understand that yet. So I struggle with that a little bit.
Leah, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Just touching on living in different countries for larger chunks of time. With, let's say, for example, this guy in Israel or somebody that you maybe meet in London, are they for the most part people that live in that country? Or are they also kind of these digital nomads? And what do you think is the difference between dating another digital nomad versus attempting to date somebody from another country? Because I imagine you're in all sorts of different places. I just got back from Japan, and the dating there is so different than here that I'm just wondering kind of how do you navigate that? Like,
Yeah.
be an Israeli guy versus a Spanish guy versus a Asian guy. Like, how do you even, I know that's a
Start.
billion question.
Yeah, no.
How do you do that?
No, that's really good. So I think that for me, I've only dated the people in the country, and that might kind of be because I have a personal rule. I don't date with my industry. When I literally first started, when I got out of college, I was working, this is a little bit of a diversion, but I was working in nightlife, and I was a marketing manager at a like venue / champagne bar. And I watched a lot of girls on the professional side, on the corporate side, date bartenders and how it affected their careers. And I got a firsthand view of that. And I always swore to myself, like, I will not date within my industry because I don't want, there's too many fish in the sea. Like literally, there's so many people.
Yeah.
There's no reason to let it affect and deal with the nuance. It's hard enough being a woman in a male dominated industry. The last thing you need is to, determine where you sit on that line and, look at a relationship that you're having on a professional level and be like, is this more? Can this be more? Like, it's not worth it. So I haven't dated any other digital nomads that I can think of. So I think that dating in a culture is definitely interesting, and I'm learning more and more about it. Like I said, I only started doing this, really focusing on my own personal life and dating life like about 8 months ago. But
what guys do you like? Like, which is your favorite country and why? What are you digging about the different features? I mean, that's a nice thing about dating international men. You get a little bit of a cultural influx each time.
I don't think I can answer that yet. I don't think I've had enough of like a dating experience. So like, I think that definitely guys that do have international experience, even if they're not like digital nomads per se, that have lived in different cultures, I definitely get along with them really well, right? Because ultimately they are a lot more open-minded. They have a lot more travel experience. They're a lot more adventurous in my experience. Like, I get along with them really well. So I don't know if it's a specific place, but more of a mindset. That being said, I mean, I had this amazing conversation with one of my good guy friends here this past Sunday about dating. And I think that one of the things that I've realized is that perception of like women from America being a little bit more promiscuous, we like explored that. And I said, I think it's just the empowerment of like the freedom we have in America, like the empowerment of the female and the advancement of our role in business and in society as a whole makes us feel like I can approach you. Like if I'm gonna get your number, or if you're gonna get my number, I'm not gonna play games, because I have my own agendas as well. Like I have my own life, I have my own career, all that other stuff. And I don't think it's promiscuous as much as it is just direct and forward. That being said, I think, the more international the guy is, the more he's traveled, the more he understands that, and the more we get along, as opposed to the more traditional the guy is, the less maybe I'm in tune with their cultural values and how they date. And maybe the less we will click. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So Leah, where do you meet people when you go to a new city? Like, how do you meet them? And are there like, I've heard of expat meetups and stuff like that, but it sounds like you're not meeting expats, you're meeting locals. So how do you meet people?
So of course I have dating apps. And in Israel, this was one of the things that really accelerated my dating life, because when I landed in Israel, our whole team there they're amazing people, but I was the most senior. And so I realized really fast, like, I work a lot, but when I need a break and I need to be social, I need that. And upon landing, I realized I don't have a social network here. And I don't need it right now, but I'm going to get burnt out at some point, or I'm going to need like that, counter, and I won't have it. So I need to start, like, I want to date and I want to meet people. And so I definitely got on dating apps and just dived in head first, had some probably, shitty dates, to be honest, but then some really good ones. And I think it's a habit, just like anything else. I tell my friends this all the time, especially the ones that work a lot. I'm like, you just got to do it. Like, you're going to have some bad ones, but you've got to get back in the habit of like just dating and putting yourself out there. And once I was doing that, it flowed a lot more naturally for me to meet people off of apps, right? Because I was kind of already in that mindset. And so I would meet friends of friends, or, I would grow my network and maybe go to meetups. The guy that I referenced earlier is a funny story, because I literally added him on Facebook because I thought he was hot. Like, I literally was like, just in this like boss babe mindset. I was like, whatever, I think you're hot, I'm gonna add you on Facebook. And I did. And then he was like, hey Leah, do we know each other? And I was like, and then I immediately recoiled. I was like, oh, sorry, I thought you were someone else. Which was a total lie. He can listen to this. That's fine. That was, he knows that. And then he was like, oh no, what should we do now? And I was like, well, we should probably just stay friends and call it Destiny. But Destiny auto-corrected to date. And he was like, are you asking me on a date?
Oh, it's a sign from the universe.
Yeah. And he goes, formality dictates you have to wait till the third or the fourth. I was like, first of all, who's making up these rules? And I was like, it was an auto correction. He was like, okay, sure. And that really was what happened. And then we went out and we kind of dated the rest of the time I was there. And when I'm dating someone consistently, I don't really juggle people either. Like, I'll casually date.
You focus on one person.
Yeah, like first or second dates, I'll have a couple of them maybe at one time. But then if I've gone out a third or fourth date with you, like I'm probably not really dating anybody else. It's very hard for me to juggle two people that I'm having like a full on relationship with.
That makes sense.
So
and your other stuff that's going on.
Right, yeah. Exactly. It just takes a lot of energy. So it kind of, I think it's that here in London, it's been a lot easier because I have a lot of friends that now, once you travel a lot, you have a network of friends and supporters that are able to understand that. And they're more than willing to help you. I have amazing people in my life that the minute I go somewhere, like, do you need introductions? Like, I'll introduce this person. And then I start to meet people through my network instead of like my personal network, instead of, going on dates. So I'm not against it. I think I'll probably, date a little bit off of apps. It's just not my favorite thing to do if I have a preference.
So I have a question. How do you know who's a psycho killer, right? If you are using the apps, like, what's the criteria for who you're going to spend time with? What are some of the things that you look for in a potentially good date?
So I think that, that's such a good question. You kind of got to trust your gut, like, obviously you always want to stay safe. But usually I'll move from like the app to WhatsApp and give it a few days. If someone's look, I'm against like double, triple texting. Maybe I'm like a little bit of a snob in that, but if I have responded to you or we're like making plans, that's awesome. If I don't respond to you for a few hours and you send me 3 texts like, what's up? Why are you ignoring me? Blah, blah, blah. I'm probably going to cancel, like, not go on a date with you because you're setting a precedent that you're very like, needy and like need a lot of attention and you can't give me the space that I need. So that's a big red flag for me. But other than that, I just think, I find some places that I feel comfortable with. And don't get me wrong, like I would say over the course of my 4 months in Israel, I maybe went on 7 dates tops, maybe 6, 7. So it wasn't like a ton, but just places I felt comfortable. Or if I have a girlfriend that I'm out with, I'll invite them to meet up so that it's like a reasonable, casual thing. I also, like, you can tell a lot from how someone texts you. or just how they're able to carry on a conversation. And
do you put in your profile that you're a nomad?
I do. I don't know how many guys read profiles though, to be honest. I know that
I don't think
they
that
read
they
it.
do either, but I always
don't
read
think they
them.
do. Yeah.
The profile is so important in what they write, but I find that people are not very good conversationalists. Like I want to kill myself within seconds of being in any kind of those interactions. It's just, I think in person is way better. I don't know.
Well, Leah,
I was the one thing I was going to say is that I can be honest about the fact that I am a really good conversationalist over text. So that's definitely an advantage that I have that I think comes from the AIM days. I know how to communicate my personality via text, so that helps a lot. But yeah, I mean, if a guy's super bland over text too, I'm like, well, I don't know how much, we're gonna have to talk about. But you can always get there and have like a safe word. Where I have like a safe word with like some of my friends where I'll have them call me and like, oh, the house is on fire. The dog's gotten kidnapped today. Okay, I'll be right there. And like as a backup.
well, Leah, I have a question for you. Just for me personally, because my dad's Israeli, and I know a bit about dating in Israel. I have lots of cousins, and most of my family still lives out there. But it seems like things might be changing in terms of app dating. What I'm wondering is, you're at that age where you're still, to us, you're a baby, right? You're still really young. Yeah. But in terms of other countries, even really kind of sexually liberated countries, like I think of Israel as a people that are very open with sexuality and talking about things like that. It's not overly conservative in that sense as a whole. Right. But there still is a very strong feeling of getting married and having kids and procreating in Israel. It's big. And just thinking of your age, I remember when I went to Israel and I was 28 exactly, and I was with my long-term boyfriend, and so many of my cousins, a lot of them got it, but so many other ones were like, but you're not married yet. Yeah. Why are you still together? But don't you want to have children? When I'm 28, I want to have 4 kids. And it was this mind-boggling thing. Granted, that was like a million years ago. I'm wondering if you've come across that in other countries with your age. I mean, you're at that age that people are asking you.
Yeah, no, I definitely have. And I think that's interesting you bring it up about Israel specifically, because I think that I encountered that a lot. I think that I was more of like this curiosity to some Israeli guys than anything. Just in that, like referencing what we were originally talking about of, no, I really mean I'm focused on my career. Like, there was definitely, I've yet to collect all the data. I don't know if this is true in other places yet, but in Israel specifically, I heard from a lot of guys that girls were very focused on marriage and trying to lock something down. And the fact that I wasn't, and I meant it, there was a specific time that they started to realize that was true. And I think it actually made the guys double down. Like they were like, it's even more of a chase. But I like don't know how to explain to them this, once again, not a game. You trying harder is not going to change my mind on the fact that, I have ambitions and goals.
Is anything ever going to change your mind? Can you ever imagine yourself like maybe making the decision on your own that you are ready to settle down, I guess?
Yeah. I mean, that's something that I think about on a regular basis, right? Like, what would that look like? How would that change my trajectory? And I don't think you can know that until you fall in love. Like, I don't think you don't get to choose when that happens. And you also don't know how it's going to look for you. I'm incredibly lucky that in Celsius, like Alex and Daniel have been so supportive of not only my own like personal empowerment and growth, but at no point in time do I think if I said, you know what, I want to stay here, as long as it wasn't like, hurting the company anyway, but they would always find a place for me wherever I wanted to be. And that just comes from like the trust and the commitment that I've had to the company. And they give me a lot of freedom to kind of move where I want to move, right? If I want to stay in London, if I want to come back to New York, I have a lot of autonomy. So I don't worry about staying there, or staying with the company if that happens. I worry more like from a personal ambition standpoint, like how would that affect like my day to day and what I want to do in my future. But it's kind of like having a kid. Like you don't know what it's like to have a kid until you have one, or
Right.
how it shifts your life and your perspective. I think that I'll know when I know, but I do feel like it's sometimes a game of musical chairs, like I'm like hopping around from place to place, and it's all of a sudden I'll like land in one place. And then if I meet someone, I'm like, okay, I guess this was the music stopped, right? Like,
Yeah, I think that's a common experience a lot of people have.
Yeah.
And it's cool that you're open-minded to it and never saying never and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
cool to hear.
I also think I would probably find someone in just my mindset and the guys that I've dated, I would need someone that's as flexible to my career as I am to theirs. And I think that it's not necessarily the location as much as the person. And I think the person will probably be open enough to, kind of either be open to long distance for a time period, or, me relocating there for a specific time and then moving on. I'm not quite sure, but.
Right. So I have another question, Leah. And this has to do with like the cultural aspects of living in different places around the world.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever met someone or dated someone that really like broke down a stereotype that you had, or something about their culture that you thought that turned out not to be true? Or if not, what changes in yourself have you noticed after traveling around the world? Because it's a big opportunity for personal growth.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to take a slight different perspective on that, because I think that's a really good question. I think that actually traveling and dating, I've been able to change some other people's perspectives on Americans, because when you date someone, you get to know them so intimately. And there's definitely stereotypes that I've encountered actively, and I don't shy away from like the stereotypes they have. I like to confront them head on and just like discuss it and have a point of exploring that with them and why they have them, because I like to learn that. And I think that it is definitely mutual. But I don't know if I'd go to places with as many stereotypes as I encounter stereotypes about Americans. Does that make sense? Like, I feel like every culture that I've been to, or every guy that I've dated, have actively had an opinion on what Americans are like. Whereas
Sure.
I don't know if I entered like Israel being like, this is what Israeli guys are like.
Mm-hmm.
Or this is what guys from London are like. Or when I went to like Paris or Amsterdam or wherever, I lived in Berlin last summer. Like, I never was like, this is, my stereotype of what these people are. So I think that I've learned a lot from them. But I don't know if there was anything that was like, oh, this is so different than what I expected, because I didn't have a lot of expectation to start with.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely there's a lot of stereotypes about Americans.
Yeah. Have you ever met someone where there was a language barrier that you overcame?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God.
Tell us about that.
Yeah. So in Israel specifically, a lot of people speak English, right? But when you're talking over text, you don't really know you can infer their level, but we have such great tech now that you don't always know. They could just have a really good translating app. So there was this one time I went on a date with a guy in Israel, and he was so cute, and he definitely, you could tell he didn't speak super good English, but most people speak relatively well. And like it's not something that would be that noticeable other than just general syntax. But I get on this date with this guy, and he speaks almost no English. And we still had a good date, but it definitely prevents you from going deeper, because kind of, if you're a very verbal person and you're speaking your native language, you can express, very complex thoughts that maybe don't come across the same because they don't know the vocabulary or anything. So it definitely prevented that. He's the one to go on the date. We didn't go on the date. But I actually am very curious about that in the reverse, right? Like, am I getting, because I'm forcing them to come to my language, am I seeing them as a whole person? Am I seeing every aspect of their personality because maybe they can't express, themselves to their truest form because they can't speak my language? I did date someone in Israel. I asked him about that. He's like, yeah, I'm so much funnier in Hebrew. And I was like, are you saying that? Or like, you sure? You speak pretty good English.
Yeah, humor's kind of hard over languages, I feel. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think everybody's necessarily funny.
And I'm hilarious. So I feel like maybe they don't get like all of my jokes all the time. But yeah, I always wonder, like, if I spoke their language, would I be able to have deeper connections with them because they would be in their native tongue the same way that if I spoke, their language, I might not be able to express myself as clearly and as poignantly as I do in my native tongue.
Well, I find that interesting too, just thinking about my parents, because my mom speaks Hebrew. My dad's first language is Hebrew, but my mom's first language is English. And I always felt like one of the things that really connected them with the language thing is that they speak both of the same languages. Even if one is the first language and the other is the first language, they can still get that. Maybe it's not full, but like they get it. And I think that's a strong thing. Language is a big deal. But I want to pivot really quick because we don't have that much time left. But we were talking before the show about something really interesting I'd love for you to give your perspective on. You don't date other tech nomads or people in the business, tech in general, right? Like in your specific business, your company.
Crypto blockchain.
Blockchain. Okay.
Crypto blockchain. Yeah.
Okay.
Crypto. Sure.
Tech is
but
hopefully
crypto stays small. Just kidding.
But considering that you don't date in crypto blockchain and you're, meeting with a lot of people in that realm regularly, how do you kind of shut that off when you're a really cute girl? I've met you. You have a great personality. I'm sure you get hit on a ton. How do you shut that off when you're doing your work and then kind of turn it back on when you're trying to date?
Yeah, that's something that's a really big, thing that you face as a woman in tech in general, but I think just business in the work or women in the work environment anyways. But it's hard to switch between the two, right? Especially when you work in an industry like ours where you're going to drinks and happy hours and there's a lot of, conferences and partying involved. That's business development too, but it's hyper, relevant in crypto and tech. I would say two things. One, you have to set an established base, right? So I actively make it clear that I don't date within the industry, and it avoids probably a lot of difficult encounters, right? Because they know it's off the table. Though on the other hand, it also, I've had multiple guys be like, well, if I wasn't in crypto, and you're like, I'm not going to answer that because it's a no. It's for sure no, but like, I don't want to offend you, but no. I think that's one thing. So I think that it's important to have that rule. And then once you have that line, you don't confront it as much. But on the personal side, how do you, like, if you're flirtatious or especially if you're dating in general, I think that side of you comes out more, right? If I'm out with a guy that I'm dating and, we're spending a lot of time together and it's physical, how do I go into an environment where I'm not going to pretend that I don't have attraction to other people that work in this industry. We're all young. A lot of people are attractive. How do you turn that off? And I think that's the tougher question, because that's like not only sticking to your guns, but also being ultra aware of the consequences of kind of every action that you take, especially as a woman, and how you present yourself. And I don't know if I have a complete answer. Sometimes I was talking to one of my friends about this. Sometimes it feels like Jacqueline Hyde. Like I feel like there's just this big disconnect between who I am in the workspace and who I am outside. And that is really tough to deal with. I've been able to separate it, but it also doesn't feel cohesive, right?
Sure.
It feels like there's this part of me that's, personal and it's a different personality. And then when I get into a work environment, I'm just a lot more aware of what topics I touch on, even in a casual conversation, if we're all out to dinner, right? Like not venturing down the road of anything regarding relationships or sex or anything like that. Obviously, we know that that's tough sometimes in crypto because things like parties at the box happen and you're like, God, this is awkward. Like,
That's fine.
I'm just, yeah. But I try to steer away from anything that's, can be construed as sexual or, kind of that realm because it just gets you in that mindset. Obviously, one thing I struggle with is like fashion because I love fashion.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna wear like frumpy clothes and just wear like a like maxi dress every single day with like long sleeves and a high neckline. And I work out and it's like I'm not gonna not be fashionable, but I think that it's also something you have to be aware of, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. It's striking a balance between what am I doing for me and what am I doing to be conscientious of the fact that men are men. And, if I wear like a short dress, like that's gonna be on their mind. I can choose to do that still. I just have to be aware of kind of maybe the outcome of that and being a lot more clear and a lot more, aware of what might happen. Whether I like it or not, it doesn't matter. It's the reality, right?
Yeah. And I mean, it's similar in any kind of male dominated industry, I'd say. So it's interesting.
Right. I think you can't shy away from it. You kind of have to say, this is what I would like the world to look like, but this is what it is.
Exactly.
And I'm not going to adjust. I'm navigating this in a world of social media. I'm navigating this in a world of young women in power positions. And I'm not someone that's going to compromise on every regard, right? Mm-hmm. I'm going to post a picture of my bikini on my Instagram. That's fine. Like, I'm not going to say, I think it's a slippery slope. You have to define it yourself. If that's not for you and you don't want to, deal with that, that's awesome. I know I can handle if a guy hits on me that is following me on Instagram, but also, works within my industry. I know how to handle it. So I feel comfortable doing that. So I'm not compromising. But it's kind of like a self-directed thing. Like you have to determine what are the consequences. Am I willing to face those? And if I'm okay with them, then I'm going to do it anyways.
Well, it seems like you've been doing it. I mean,
hopefully, yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. This is a great place to break, ladies. We're coming up on the time where Lauren has to go to work. It's like this whole thing she's got to do. But before we go, Leah, where can people catch up with you? Where can people learn more about Celsius? Maybe, I don't know. I don't know if you want people to find you that are listening to this. It sounds a little weird, but anyway.
I actually, it's so funny because I actually have a joke with another podcast. You guys should actually do this too. I want to have one of those videos where where females read the DMs from guys that they get. But no, I can handle it.
Yeah.
So basically, like one of those where famous people read all the tweets about them. But anyways, I am on Twitter at Leah and Jonas, Jonas. If you're in London, I'm here, so feel free to reach out. I'm always, looking for my network. If you're a female, I am happy to grow my female network even more so, and kind of chat with anybody. You can find Celsius at Celsius Network on Twitter, also Celsius.network on the web. And then from there, I mean, LinkedIn too, my name, pretty straightforward stuff, but I'm always looking to connect with more people in the space. So don't be shy. That's how I grow my network.
Awesome. Thanks so much, everybody. The Tatiana
Thanks,
show is
Leah.
on.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for having me on. I mean, I think that you guys are have some really great content, especially for women in the 21st century.
Oh, well, thanks everybody for listening in. This has been proofoflovecast.com. The show is Proof of Love, but Proof of Love Cast on all of our socials, and we put out shows on Fridays. And if you guys like this show, maybe check out the Tatiana Show on Tuesdays, thetatianashow.com, and share this show with a friend. We'll see you next time on Proof of Love.
Thank you.
Show me your heart. I know that it's beating. Tell me that you love me too. So I know your heart is true. 'Cause I need some proof of love. 'Cause I need some proof of love. 'Cause I need some proof of love. Thank you for listening to Proof of Love. Please follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Proof of Lovecast. More episodes can be found at proofoflovecast.com. And make sure you leave a review on iTunes and tell your friends. Proof of Love has been brought to you by CryptoMediaHub.com, a boutique marketing and PR agency for Bitcoin and beyond. You are listening to Proof of Love with Tatiana Moroz, Dr. Stephanie Murphy, and Lauren Kasovitz. This show may contain adult content, language, and humor and is intended for mature audiences. If that's not you, please stop listening. Nothing you hear on Proof of Love is intended as financial advice, legal advice, therapy, or really anything other than entertainment. Please take everything that you hear with a grain of salt. Oh, and if you're hearing us on an affiliate network, the ideas and views expressed on this show are not necessarily those of the network that you're listening on, or of any of the sponsors or affiliate products that you may hear about on the show.